Hey guys, and welcome back to Ultra Game World. And today we are looking at the B450M Pro4 Asrock motherboard. Now this is a B450 motherboard in M80X or micro ATX format. It is Ryzen 3000 series ready, and this is actually a used motherboard that I've used in previous builds, so the box isn't actually the box is actually open, so as you can see that it is open there. So as I was saying, this is a B450 motherboard, which is a good chipset, a little bit older now, but obviously the B550 has replaced it. And obviously the X570 is the one above the B550. But if you're looking for a sort of budget motherboard, I think this is a good option. It is obviously in micro ATX size as well, so maybe if you've got a micro ATX case, that might actually be really good, or even if you've got an ATX case, it could also go in there as well. And because it's micro ATX, generally it's a little bit more cheaper as well. I think when I actually brought this new, I think it was actually £75, but I think it has gone down a little bit now. I think it's around the 65 to maybe £60, and I think potentially even used maybe on like Facebook Marketplace, you might be able to pick this up for even £40, so that would be a real bargain. Seeing as you've got support up to the 3000 series, but with a BIOS update, you can actually get up to the 5000 series. You could even get a 5950X, although I probably wouldn't recommend it with this board because this is more towards lower end or sort of middle of the road sort of CPUs, I'd say. This isn't for the higher end like 5800X and stuff like that. This is more for your, ideally I would say the ideal CPU for this would be the 3600. The 3700X and the 3800X would be fine as well. But anything lower than that, anything lower than the 3800X I think would be the best for this board. But I'm kind of rambling on now, so let's just go into it. I'm gonna put my overhead on now. So switching to the overhead now, as you can see. I've just put it in the corner there, the top right hand corner. Be able to see that on the overhead hopefully. Let's take this motherboard out of the box. So let's first of all have a look at the packaging. Quite simple, the I/O shield, the M.2 screws, and I think more M.2 screws. There's actually two there, but in two separate bags. And your beer coaster, well, CD. I like to call them beer coasters now. Let's close up that box and just stick the motherboard on top. There we go. So let's have a little motherboard tour. Quite a nice little motherboard here. Can you see that all in the shot? I think you can. Hopefully you can, and you can see the overhead as well, hopefully. So we'll leave the I/O to last, and then we'll just go basically around the board here. So your 8-pin EPS connector for your CPU power is here. You have heat sinks on the VRMs. I'm not exactly sure the exact phases of the VRMs. Yeah, you have got cooling on there, so in theory any kind of sort of higher end CPU should be able to cope on this, and it shouldn't overheat. Your motherboard basically shouldn't overheat, and you should have good power delivery even for a higher end chip, but I would still say sort of your middle to lower end chips would be best for this. Then we have the 4-pin CPU fan connection and the 4-pin CPU pump connection if you are using a AIO, or if you need that for a custom loop or anything like that. So you've got two fan headers there, which is really nice. We have 4 DIMM slots. I'll put it at the bottom how much gigabytes it takes, but I'm probably guessing about 128 gigabytes you could probably get up into this. Obviously we've got our CPU socket, the AM4 socket. It is a little bit dusty, this board, so I do apologise, but it is a used board, so that will happen. So we have our 24-pin motherboard connector or ATX connector. Oh, actually in the corner here we have a fan LED. Not exactly sure if that's the 5 volt or the 12 volt. I'll put that in the again, I'll put that on the screen if needed. Here is our USB 3.0 connection for your headers, or your USB-free headers on your front of your case. There's 4 SATA ports there, and they're actually at a right angle to the motherboard, so that's really nice. We've got a heatsink here, so no fan either, which is really nice. So it's pretty much all quiet, this board. There's no external parts on it, so again, that's good. We'll move on to the M.2s in a bit. Here is your front panel connectors here, the first lot of pins. The next one is for like speakers, or anything like external. I think it's also external LEDs you potentially could get on there. This looks like a CMOS jumper, but I'm not sure. I know this one's the CMOS jumper, sorry. This one I'm actually not sure what that is, but I'll put it down below if needed. Then you've got 2 4-pin fan headers. This motherboard actually supports 5 in total, as there's one also here as well. So it's really good for micro ATX boards to actually support 5 fan headers, because so many times on micro ATX boards you get like 2, and then you're having to split it with, if you've got 3 fans, you obviously need to split between one of them. You need 2 fans on one and then 1 on the other fan. So yeah, I'm really happy that that's actually got 5. That's really good. That's a really good feature of this board. Next we have 2 USB 2 fan headers. Sorry, not fan headers. Front panel headers. So if you're plugging in maybe AIOs, they might need to go into there. If you've got USB 2s at the front for your front panel connectors, they will go there too. And you should have enough of 2 there. Probably most people won't even use those, but they're there for if you need them. And next is a COM port, so again, you're probably not going to be using that. Next here is, it says TPMS, but again, I'll put that at the bottom for what that is. I'm not sure what it is. Then you have a 12 volts RGB fan header, so that's really good. That's like the old RGB. That's the old RGB sort of system for old RGB units. And then you've got the addressable LED, which is the 5 volt header from what I can remember. That is addressable as 5 volt. Now controversially, I don't know if you know, but the MSI B450 Tomahawk actually didn't come with any addressable RGB headers. So obviously people who had addressable RGB fans couldn't actually plug it into their motherboard, and either had to use some kind of fan controller or something external. So this is actually a really good feature. This motherboard's actually cheaper than that, and to actually have it, you know, was good thinking by Asrock. So I like that. Next is your HD audio header. So we've got one Ultra M.2, and that's for PCI Gen 3 ×4 support, so that's really good. Then we've just got a M.2 here, which I think it might only be PCI 2.0, but again, I can put it at the bottom if needed. But you'd obviously use the first one for your main drive, and then if you've got a second one, you have got the ability there for that. And as I said, there was another fan header here. There's not really anything else that I think I've missed on the board there. So we'll go to the I/O now. It's going to be a little bit difficult for me because I can't actually quite see it from now. I'm going to have to move it to this side. There we go, we can see that there. So we have, in total, we actually have 8 USB ports, although one is a USB Type-C. We have 2 USB 2.0 ports. We have 4 USB 3 ports, and I don't know if they're 3.1 ports. Again, I'll put that at the bottom if needed. I think this is a USB 3.2 port, or USB 3 3.2 port. It all gets very complicated with USBs. And then we have the USB-C. So the USB-C is actually quite a nice feature to see on a motherboard like this. It's a little bit more aimed at a budget motherboard, so to have that support is actually really good. Again, I do think Asrock do make good boards. I've had Asrock boards for quite a long time. I've always, usually between them and MSI, are the only sort of motherboard makers I actually buy usually nowadays. and I would say generally they've all been fine. I've never really had problems with Asrock boards. And for the VGA ports, we have obviously the VGA here, we have the DVI here, and we have the HDMI output here, as well as your audio outputs. Now obviously this audio isn't great, this is obviously a budget motherboard, so you've only got the 3 ports there, and really obviously if you want to go any further with audio you'd have to get a separate sound card really, but I think most people will just be using like a USB headset anyway, so it just overwrites the audio, the onboard audio anyway, so that's not a problem. I wouldn't mark that down. And obviously we have a gigabit Lan Port there. So I hope you like that little overview of the Asrock B450M Pro4 motherboard. We've actually got a build coming up on the channel using this board, although I will be putting it into an ATX case, so it might look a little bit odd, but it'll be perfectly fine. I've got the Ryzen 5 3600, and I'm going to have to put the GTX 1050 Ti in. Unfortunately, I was trying to get the 1650 Super, but a few things haven't really worked out, so we haven't been able to get that, but it doesn't matter. GPU's just very hard to get at the moment, but hey. Obviously, please like this video if you did like it and you've got this far. Please subscribe so you can obviously see the build coming up. And I think I've talked about everything that I needed to. So please like, comment and subscribe to my videos. And I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.